Welcome to Rooted and Reasoned podcast, where faith meets thoughtful inquiry. We're back with another deep dive into our series, Does God Exist?
Woo! Episode 6.
Can you believe we're already on episode 6?
I know, it's amazing
Yeah.
how fast time flies when you're wrestling with these big questions.
For anyone who's just tuning in,
Yeah.
we've been exploring all sorts of different arguments
All right.
that point towards the existence of God. But today, we're taking a different approach, one that you might not expect, the world of math.
Math. Now that's an interesting twist. I'm definitely curious. See where this goes.
Think about it. Have you ever noticed how perfectly math seems to describe the world around us? Like how the planets move in such a predictable way, or how music has these beautiful harmonies that can actually be explained using math, or even how buildings stay standing. It's kind of freaky how well it works.
Yeah, you're right. It is pretty incredible
Yeah,
when you
it's-
stop and think about it.
And that's what we're going to explore today. What if, and hear me out here, math is more than just numbers and equations? What if it's actually a language, a kind of secret code that unlocks the mysteries of the universe?
A language, you say. That's a really cool way to think about it. It makes you wonder who's speaking this language.
Exactly.
Isn't it?
And that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
So buckle up, because today we're going to dive deep into the connections between faith, science, and the amazing power of math.
I'm ready to dive in.
Okay, first things first.
We'll do it.
Let's be real for a second. We all probably remember those math classes in school.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Some of us love them, some of us maybe not so much.
Yeah. Math can definitely seem pretty dry when you're stuck in a classroom.
For sure. But I think that's because we don't always get to see how cool and relevant it is out in the real world. It's like learning a new language, but never actually getting to speak it. But once you understand the language of math, it's like you suddenly have this superpower, this ability to decode how things work.
That's a great analogy. It's like math gives us the keys to understanding the universe's instruction manual.
Exactly. To really see how powerful this is. Let's look at some mind-blowing examples. Way back in ancient Greece, there was this super smart dude named Pythagoras.
Oh, yeah, I remember him. Wasn't he the one who came up with that theorem about right triangles?
Yep, that's the one. But get this. Pythagoras wasn't just interested in triangles. He also had this theory about music. He realized that when you shorten a vibrating string by exactly half its length, it creates the same note, just an octave higher. And the coolest part is that this harmony, this beautiful sound, can be explained with a simple mathematical ratio.
Yeah, that's incredible. So the music we enjoy listening to, the harmonies that move us, are based on math. That's blown my mind a little.
Right, and it doesn't stop there. Think about Sir Isaac Newton, the guy with the apple and gravity. That simple observation led him to discover the law of gravity, which he wrote down as a mathematical equation. And that equation, scribbled on a piece of paper, was powerful enough to help us launch rockets into space centuries later.
That's pretty wild. It's like math gives us this ability to understand and even predict how things work on a massive scale.
I know, right? And here's where it gets even crazier. Mathematicians have been able to predict the existence of things in the universe way before scientists could actually see or prove them. It's as if math gives us a glimpse into the blueprint of creation. Like scientists predicted radio waves and even this tiny particle called the Higgs boson.
Wow.
Just by using math years before we had the technology to find them.
That's amazing. So math is almost like a prophetic language, revealing secrets of the universe that are hidden from our senses.
You got it. And that brings us to this mind-blowing concept that even has scientists scratching their heads. It's called the unreasonable effectiveness of mathematics.
Unreasonable effectiveness, huh? Sounds intriguing. What's that all about?
Well, this idea comes from a brilliant physicist named Eugene Wigner. He basically said that math works so well in describing the universe, it's almost too good to be true. Like, it's not just a coincidence, though. There's something deeper going on. Even scientists who aren't religious are puzzled by how perfectly math fits with the way reality works. It's as if the universe was designed to be understood through math.
That's a really fascinating point. It's almost like wondering if the universe speaks math, but how did it learn to speak our language, so to speak? It really does make you think. If the universe was just random chance, you wouldn't expect math to fit so perfectly. It's like trying to describe a painting using only musical notes. It just wouldn't work.
Exactly. And this is where we start to see two different perspectives emerge. On the one hand, you have people who believe that everything in the universe just happened by chance. They're called naturalists, and they try to explain this happy coincidence of math by saying that, well, the universe just happens to have a mathematical structure.
That's a pretty simple explanation, but does it really hold up?
That's the thing. It doesn't really explain why math is so elegant and interconnected. It also doesn't explain why some of the most complex math, like something called imaginary numbers, helps us understand the universe, even though it doesn't seem to exist physically. It's like saying the universe just happened to invent its own language and then taught it to us.
Right. That doesn't seem very likely. It feels like there's gotta be a better explanation out there.
And there is. On the other side, you have people who believe in God. They see this connection between math and the universe as evidence of a creator. They use this cool analogy. Imagine a king who wants to build a magnificent city. Before he even lays a single brick, he calls in a skilled architect to create a detailed blueprint, planning every street, every building, every tiny detail.
I like where you're going with this. So the blueprint is like the math, and the architect is God.
Exactly. If God is the ultimate architect, the one who designed the universe, then it makes perfect sense that he would use math as his blueprint. That would explain why the physical world reflects that blueprint so flawlessly. It's not just a random fluke. It's a reflection of the creator's mind.
That's a pretty powerful idea. But is there any evidence to support this, or is it just a nice thought?
Actually, there's a lot of evidence, and some of it comes from the Bible. You don't have to be a Bible scholar to understand it either. Let's take a look at some verses that talk about God's role as the creator.
Okay, I'm listening.
For starters, Isaiah chapter 40, verse 12 asks, "Who has measured the waters in the hollow of his hand, or with the breadth of his hand marked off the heavens? Who has held the dust of the earth in a basket, or weighed the mountains on the scales, and the hills in a balance?"
Whoa, that's pretty poetic. It sounds like it's talking about God. Measuring and ordering creation, kind of like an architect, using math to plan a building.
That's exactly it. And there's another verse in Job chapter 28, verses 25 to 27, that says, "When he established the force of the wind, and measured out the waters, when he made a decree for the rain, and a path for the thunderstorm, then he looked at wisdom and appraised it. He confirmed it and tested it." This verse emphasizes God's deliberate use of wisdom in designing the universe. And as we've seen, the way the universe operates reflects that wisdom through its mathematical laws.
That's pretty cool. So it's like God used wisdom, which includes math, to create these amazing systems we see in nature.
Right. And just to make sure we're clear that God set these laws in place, check out Jeremiah chapter 33, verse 25. This is what the Lord says, "If I have not established my covenant with day and night, and the fixed laws of heaven and earth," sibling, God himself says that he established these fixed laws. And we often use math to describe those very laws.
It all starts to make sense now. The universe is so precise, the laws are so elegant, and math describes them perfectly. It's like seeing the fingerprints of a creator everywhere you look.
I totally agree. And it's not just about the big stuff like planets and stars. Psalm 147 verses 4 and 5 says, "He determines the number of the stars and calls them each by name. Great is our Lord and mighty in power. His understanding has no limit." God knows every single star, every speck of cosmic dust in the entire universe, and even more mind-blowing, he understands how it all works together, a level of understanding that we can only begin to grasp through the language of mathematics.
That's a pretty humbling thought. It makes our human attempts to understand the universe seem pretty small, doesn't it?
It really does. But at the same time, it's so cool that God has given us this ability to explore and learn through math. And here's another awesome verse. Romans chapter 1, verse 20 says, "For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made." That means that just by looking at creation, by studying how it works, we can actually catch glimpses of God's nature.
That's amazing. It's like God is speaking to us through creation, and math is one of the languages he uses.
You got it. And there are even more verses that support this idea. Colossians chapter 1, verses 16 and 17 say, "For in him all things were created, things in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible. He is before all things, and in him all things hold together." This tells us that God is the one holding the entire universe together. And if math is what describes the laws that govern the universe, then it's like math is reflecting God's power to keep everything running smoothly.
It's like math is the glue that holds everything together. I never thought of it that way before.
And speaking of glue, you know those laws we keep talking about? Job chapter 38, verse 33 asks, "Do you know the laws of the heavens? Can you set up God's dominion over the earth?"
Hmm.
This verse really makes you stop and think, where did these laws come from? Are they just a random accident? Or did someone, a cosmic architect, put them in place?
It's a big question, but thinking about it this way, it does make you wonder if there's more to the story than just random chance.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And here's another awesome analogy. Isaiah chapter 28, verses 23 to 26 says, "Listen and hear my voice. Pay attention and hear what I say. When a farmer plows for planting, does he plow continually? Does he keep on breaking up and working the soil? His God instructs him and teaches him the right way. This shows how God guides us and gives us wisdom, just like an architect would guide a builder. And in the same way, an architect uses blueprints and math to construct a building. God uses similar principles to design and sustain the universe."
It's like a cosmic blueprint. God is the master architect,
That's
and the
correct.
universe is his masterpiece, and it all fits together so perfectly because he used math to make it happen.
Exactly. And just to hammer home the point,
Yeah.
that God is the one behind it all. Hebrews chapter 3, verse 4 says it straight up. "For every house is built by someone, but God is the builder of everything." Think about it. Every building we see, every invention we create, it all starts with a builder, a creator. And if the universe with its mind-blowing complexity and mathematical precision is like the ultimate building, then who better to be the builder than God himself?
These verses definitely paint a compelling picture. They suggest that if math is the language of the universe, then the existence of God, the ultimate architect, is the most logical explanation for who's speaking it.
Wow, we've covered a lot of ground today. We started with the idea that math is like a secret code that unlocks the universe's mysteries. Then we explored how it's been used to make amazing discoveries and predictions. We even talked about how math seems to fit so perfectly with reality that even some scientists who aren't religious are amazed by it.
It's definitely mind-blowing when you think about it. We often take math for granted, but it's really the foundation of so much of our understanding of the world.
I totally agree. And what's even more mind-blowing is the idea that this incredible language of math might actually be pointing towards a creator, a divine architect who designed the universe with such precision and elegance.
It's a pretty profound thought, and honestly, it makes a lot of sense when you consider all the evidence we've looked at. From the fine-tuning of the universe to the amazing examples of how math is embedded in nature.
Right. And the Bible verses we discussed really add another layer to this, showing us that the idea of a creator using wisdom and order to build the universe is something that people have been thinking about for a long time.
For sure. And it's not just some abstract concept either. It has real implications for how we view the world and our place in it.
Exactly. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm going to leave you with one final question to ponder. If the universe is like a grand symphony, a masterpiece of mathematical laws working together in perfect harmony, what does that tell us about the composer?
That's a great question to think about. It reminds us that there's always more to discover, more to learn about the universe, and the one who created it.
It really does.
And if you enjoyed this exploration of faith and reason, we'd love for you to like, share, and subscribe to Rooted and Reason for more thought-provoking conversations.
Until next time, keep those minds curious.